Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a new What If. What if Deku had a spirit quirk part 1, but we're doing something a little bit interesting. And a lot of you know that a long time ago when I started this channel, one of my biggest, I would say, or maybe one of my most known videos from, like, if you've been here for a long time, is what if Deku had a ghost quirk. So I'll be doing that once again. Obviously it's been a very long time since I did that video, so don't expect it to be mirror for mirror, like, obviously it's not going to be the same, but it's going to have its differences. And I decided I'll take it a little bit of a different direction, but it's still going to hold some of the good components that Ghost Quirk had way back then. Now, with that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into the video, so let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is born into a world without a quirk. A world that is full of superpowers known as quirks, and the superpowers that he wants, well, would allow him to be like All Might. But the thing is, he's unable to be like All Might. It seems like as the years go by, he lacks the quirk he really needs. And frankly, there's a lot of things in his own head that makes him feel as if he'll never be able to be a hero without a quirk. But there's one person in his life that continues to cheer him on and continues to hope that he can be what he wants to be. And that is his mother. Inko Midoriya continues to tell him that with hard work, with absolute persistence, and with courage, he can be the hero he wants to be. But it's quite the opposite when he arrives at school. From elementary to middle school to anything in between, he continues to hear the same things over and over again. That he's useless, that he'll never be a hero, and that he should just quit right now. Because he'll never be anything greater than what he is now. But Izuku, deep down inside, he knows that he can do it. That he can become what he needs to become to be the hero that he wants to be. But as these voices and as these people continue to tell him to never try, to give up right now, and to give up on his dreams, well, when he gets a little older and older, he begins to feel extremely down about all of these people. These people swarm him with all of these insults. Even Katsuki Bakugo, somebody he saw as his friend, continues to seemingly push him over the edge, berating him, calling him a Deku, and calling him a horrible person, and that he's useless, that he's always going to be useless. And this really hurts Izuku, but the one person that continues to raise him up, his own mother, well, she begins to go through some very interesting complications herself. His own mother begins to go through this odd disease, this kind of sickness that nobody knows or even understands. Izuku would help her as much as possible, but it seems as if she's just never going to be well again. It seems like slowly but surely, the mother he knows is going away. She's disappearing. She's not the same person she once was, and seems to be just completely different. The doctors would even say that she's actually falling a little bit short of the test now, and that the day could come quicker than they could possibly imagine. That there may be nothing they could do. That there may be absolutely not a single thing they can do for Izuku and his mother. That his mother, well, seems to be terminally ill and will pass away in the coming months. Izuku would feel sad. He would feel horrible. And all he could think about is, well, I can't do what I want to do. I can't be a hero. I need to make money. I need to somehow supply for our family. I need to make sure that my mother's last days are comfortable, right? That's the things that Izuku wants to do. Make sure that Inko, or his own mother, is comfortable. As he goes through these days, as he takes on part-time jobs, and as he continues to go to school, eventually one day, the call that he's been terrified of would show up. The call that he's been, well, let's be honest, preparing for. He hears it, he answers it, and he hears what occurred, and that his mother has gone. His mother is now officially gone, and he has to keep on pushing forward. He knows how unfair this scenario is, and he knows what this means. But after the passing of his mother, and after everything happened, he would fall under a deep depression. He would be extremely sad, extremely frustrated, angry, and all of the above. And eventually, he would arrive at school. His teachers would speak about people wanting to be heroes and continue on talking about this or that and hero work this and that other people don't really want to, basically do normal jobs. And Izuku would hear this, and Bakugo would begin berating him, and eventually he would hear the words he would say. He would hear Bakugo tell him that he might as well just go jump off a building and pray that in the next life he has a quirk. Izuku's feelings, Izuku's entire demeanor would change. He would slouch over, he would feel extremely, extremely sad, and he would begin to question himself on everything, question what he should do. And after that day, after the school day was over, he'd take a staircase walking up to the top of the building, and he would stand there. He would look out from everywhere, look around and wonder, maybe this life doesn't have anything else for him. Maybe it doesn't. But still, it doesn't mean he could throw it all away. As he turns around though, he feels this giant gust of wind and a gust of air feel as if it pushes him. He doesn't jump, but it feels like this push trips him over and he falls straight off the building. Izuku would go spiraling down, falling, and he feels like he's falling for eternity. And as he lands, he doesn't feel anything. He sees something odd. He begins to look, and he sees himself laying on the ground, out cold. But then he looks around. He sees kids running, he sees teachers running, he sees an ambulance arriving, but he sees himself. But as he sees himself, he begins to see other things. Little lights, little what figments of light flying around, and then eventually a transparent hand, a woman's hand, would reach out toward Izuku, and a voice very familiar to one he knows, would tell him that it's not time to give up just yet, because he still has a mission and he still has a dream to fulfill. Izuku would reach out toward that transparent hand, the spiritual hand, and he would grab it. As he grabs it, he'd get pulled up straight back into his body, and he would float up slowly. As Izuku would become conscious once again within his own body, he would be slightly flying off the ground. Everybody would stop, completely shocked at what just happened. Izuku would look around, his eyes glazed over, slightly different now, but not so different than his normal color, because it begins to fade back and he would look like his normal self once again. His eyes going back to that green, and he would land with both feet on the ground. But Izuku would be giving off a different sense of himself, as if everybody around him would get the chills, as if the temperature would drop, as if things around him would just get so much colder, as if he's kind of a ghost of some sorts. Everybody would ask if he's okay, what happened, I mean seriously, did he really? And then they realize what did Bakugo tell him to do not too long ago? What did Bakugo tell him to do just maybe 20 minutes ago? To jump off the roof. And, well, Izuku survived, but he did that. Bakugo did that. Everybody would look at Bakugo in disgust, but at the same time, look at him terrified. That they can't believe that he really forced somebody to do that. But it's not necessarily that he forced them. And we know how impressionable children are. And the fact is, Bakugo said to go jump off the roof, and now it looks like that's what happened. Izuku would, well, in the good hardness of what he always is, he would tell them no. That something pushed him. That something, someone, maybe, he doesn't know. But he didn't see it. He didn't see the person. He didn't see anything. He just got pushed. In which many people start believing that maybe Bakugo did it. Maybe Bakugo pushed him off the roof. In which Izuku tries to say that that's not the case, but of course, kids, like I said, are impressionable. And they begin to think that Bakugo is basically a murderer. That he tried to kill Izuku. And all that popularity, all of that sway that Bakugo once had, now seemingly is gone. Izuku tries to mediate it, but no. Everybody's not hearing it. Izuku's popularity and the love for Izuku begins to skyrocket with how he survived and now what seems to be his new awakened quirk. But Bakugo's, on the other hand, everybody is disgusted of him. Nobody wants to be around him, and nobody wants to even be near him. But Izuku himself, he has something to do. And he can't worry about these other people. He can't worry about Bakugo himself. He has to worry about what's coming. Because he has to get into UA, and he has to make sure that he passes those exams. So what does he do? Well, he starts hitting the books, starts studying, starts prepping, and he starts working on whatever this quirk really does and really is. He starts messing around with it, realizing that he is kind of he has some sort of an odd quirk, right? He can kind of phase through walls. He can fly for the most part. And what seems odd as well is that he can now see kind of, well, ghosts, spirits. But there must be more to this. Maybe, just maybe, there's a connection. Maybe he can connect with these spirits. Maybe he can utilize these spirits. He's not sure, but he does know, for the very least, he can fly, he can phase through things, and he can also break things by flying into them and kind of shattering them. Now, in terms of possession, he might be able to. He might be able to actually, take control over people, but he's not sure about that, at least not at the moment. But this training has really helped him throughout these 10 months just kind of figure out what he could do, right? Figure out all the stuff that he's capable of and all the stuff that he could possibly do for the UA entrance exam. Now, after prepping and getting ready, finally the UA entrance exam is upon them, and when he would arrive, he would be seated right next to Bakugo. He would sit down, and Bakugo would sit there and kind of be unsure of himself. He would tell Izuku that he's really sorry. He is. In which Izuku hears him and tells him that it wasn't his fault. That he didn't fall because of Bakugo. That he was up on that roof and maybe he was contemplating it. But he did not fall because of Bakugo. And Bakugo would sit there and shake his head and tell him that he still was on that roof because of him. So it's basically the same thing as if he pushed him or not. Bakugo would go silent, and everybody would listen as President Mike would tell them what's going on. He would tell them that they got to go through this, they got to do this, and that they have the written portion, and then obviously the practical portion, right? All of these different portions of the test, and they're going to have to worry about them all. Now, the written portion isn't too difficult for Izuku, and eventually, actually, Izuku realizes that he could actually cheat on this exam pretty damn easily. I mean, he could straight up send his spirit, or like kind of that ghost form, out of his body, and he could kind of basically just start looking at other people's answers and copying those who he believes are the smartest there. But that's not the best way to do it. He studied for a reason, so he's going to study. Or so he's going to continue to use his studies so that he can pass the exam. He continues to put down different answers, and eventually he's done. Now this would then lead him to going into the practical portion of the exam. Now this is where Izuku really gets to show off what he can do. Now he can turn his whole body into a ghost form. He can go into like a spectral form where he kind of just sits there, and it's more of like a scouting type of thing. But he also can become a ghost itself, where he flies around and he can go into the robots and actually utilize them if he wanted to some extent. Kind of just like sit in there and kind of run the robot into different robots, or he could just kind of explode them from the inside out. In which Izuku kind of flies around through the practical very quickly, mind you, and he just pops robot after robot. Now, this does make him pretty damn tired, right? He does need to make sure that he comes back into his normal form. What he realizes, as the more tired he gets, it feels as if it's harder for him to maintain, that it's harder for him to come back to the normal world. And it feels as if he's kind of crossing the in-between, that he's crossing over and over and over again. But Izuku kind of shrugs this off and continues to try and destroy robot after robot after robot. He destroys a ton of robots, and eventually he would calm down, take a breath, and all the noises around him would stop. He would think to himself, oh wow, I mean, I didn't mean to calm down that much, like that's pretty, wow, okay. Like he feels calm, relaxed at the same time. But when he would turn around, he would realize something, that nobody's there. No kids, no teachers, no robots. City the same, but he's the only one here. He walks a couple steps. His steps feel different. His hands, his body, his arms, it all feels different. And eventually he hears whistling in the wind, and he turns. He sees these ghost-like figments flying around. And then he's confused because they stop. They stop as if they're staring at him. They stop as if they know he's there. He walks over toward them and he doesn't hear anything, but he just hears this kind of light buzz. It's as if they're speaking, but they're not speaking at all. In all reality, they're not making noise. He hears it within his own head. And then eventually, these ghost-like figments, 3 to 4 to 5 of them, would fly at Izuku. Izuku would be shocked and try to block, but then he would realize that they're gone, that they're not there anymore. And as he's realizing this, the area around him would change once again. He sees the hero, or the heroes in training, the other kids, and he sees the robots once again. But as he looks up, he sees a giant robot walking toward him. He immediately freaks out and begins flying away, but he sees that there's somebody behind him that actually needs help. Izuku flies in, grabbing the girl, pushing all the rubble off, and flies her away, basically to safety, so that the 0 Point robot doesn't squish her like a pancake, in which she's thankful, but wonders what happened to Izuku. Like, what happened to this guy? Obviously, she doesn't know who he is, but wonders why he was just standing there. That it was as if he was in a different world, like he wasn't present in what was happening. Izuku would immediately look back toward this robot and would see that it continues to march forward at them, and he would immediately feel this power looming. And he would see something. The lights, the figments once again show up, and he begins to see them twirling around the legs of the robots, faster and faster. As they twirl around, the robot's legs would be kind of knocked out from underneath him, and he would crash and break on the ground. Izuku would look and he would put his hand out. And as he does, these ghost-like figures would fly over to him and would just dissolve into Izuku, as if he was able to control them entirely. But these were seemingly basic little figments, basic spirits. Nothing crazy, not some monumentous creature or anything like that, but this was amazing. He didn't know that his quirk could do so much. He didn't know that he was able to do that. Seriously, this is insane. In which he looks back at Ochako Uraka, in which she's completely shocked as well, thinking that she has no idea how the hell that robot just fell. Well, it's because she could not see the spirits, only Izuku can. And that world that he entered was a realm for the spirits alone. And they were calling, talking, and wanting to reach out to him to help him. These few spirits are one of many, and they seemingly will help him on his journey, seemingly ready to help Izuku any way they possibly can. But Izuku brushes this off, at least momentarily, and he helps Ochako out, gets her to Recovery Girl, and leaves immediately, thinking that he needs to get to his job so he can make some freaking money. And yes, this version of Izuku is basically trying to make money as much as possible so that he can live his life, right? This is just like he's in a bad position, but he doesn't want to go into foster care or anything like that. He doesn't want to deal with all of it. But one day when he would arrive back at home, he would see something on his porch. It was a big box, and he would open the box and he would see there were a lot of essentials. There was food, pre-made food actually, and he would realize that it was from the Bakugo family. And he would realize that Bakugo still is feeling some, let's just call it grief, from what he did or what he kind of put Izuku in the position to do. In which he appreciates it, but he doesn't want Bakugo feeling guilty. But at the same time, I mean, he did say those things. He did something really bad, and now he's dealing with the consequences. But Bakugo's path to being a hero himself is not different than Izuku's at the moment, because the same day they would both get that letter and Izuku would open it up and see that he made it into Class 1A and made it into UA High School. Bakugo would do the same and he would see the exact same thing. But he, Bakugo, Katsuki Bakugo, was the #1 student in Class 1A. Look, Izuku might have done quite well, but the spirit world kind of event and also the saving of Ochako kind of balanced the scales a little bit, making it so Izuku couldn't necessarily get the top spots, but he was in the top 5. He did really well and he got some points from rescue, so he did extremely well in terms of a point basis, just not well enough to eclipse Bakugo at that #1 spot. But he is no slouch. There is no shame in being in the top 5, so Izuku is happy with where he landed, at least for the time being. Izuku's first day of UA High School is about to begin, and his excitement is through the roof. But before he could even step foot in the classroom, he's invited to the principal's office and told that he really needs to speak with the principal now. Nezu would ask about his guardian / parent / anybody that takes care of him, and Izuku's finally had to reveal that he actually lives on his own, that it's just him and that his mom passed away recently, and that he continues to work kind of jobs to sustain himself. In which, hearing this, Nezu shakes his head, saying that the kid, yes, he is admirable. He can have all the respect in the world for doing so. But listen, you're a kid. You need to be able to feel free to enjoy life and also go into your studies without worrying about taking an extra shift to survive. Nezu tells him that he's heard about this and he thought that this would be true and that he got a key in from some people about his situation. He just wanted to speak with him first. So Nezu tells him he's going to put him on a full scholarship to UA High School, of course, but on top of that is going to give him kind of these incentives where they're going to pay for housing and his food and his essentials and stuff like that, as long as he keeps up with what he's, well, supposed to do. In which Izuku was happy to hear this, saying that he's super grateful and all of the above, and Nezu would then tell him that they even have a place for him on the campus, that there's going to be a place for him. It's nothing crazy, nothing amazing, but it's a small like, studio apartment that he can live in, and that basically he'll live on campus and it'll be easy commute for him. And if he needs anything, that he can always ask faculty or anything like that, in terms of if he needs any help or something like that. And of course, Izuku is massively grateful for this, and this also gives him a chance to keep up with his training as much as possible and not worry about having to go home or anything like that. Now, the first day of UA would be a tricky one though, nonetheless, because Izuku would learn that Shota Aizawa is a bit of a hard teacher. This guy is wanting the best and the absolute best out of you at all times, and he wants to test them ASAP, and that will start with a quirk assessment test. Now, what would this entail? Well, mostly physical things, throwing a ball, how fast are you, and so on. And Izuku really is able to show off some great skills here. Yes, he's not the strongest, and his throw of a ball isn't the best, but he's able to kind of carry it along with some of the spirits that he has, which he doesn't have full control over just yet. He still doesn't know the restraints or how much he can actually have them do, or how good of a thing they really are. He doesn't even really know what kind of level he can use them at least at the moment. But still, he continues to impress over and over again, and throughout this entire quirk assessment, he really does impress. I mean, he does a hell of a job. He does just really exceeds expectations on almost every single thing he does, and he gets in around the top 5, maybe even the top 3. Yes, he does fall short of some of the other students, but Izuku's quirk is still basically brand new to him, and it's very, very situational, and there is really no kind of debating that. Izuku's quirk is very unique, but also with the potential of being very powerful, and Izuku knows that. He knows how strong his quirk can really be. Of course, Aizawa does tell them that it was a bit of a bluff of him saying that they're all or someone's going to be expelled if they got last. But of course, he just wanted to teach them a bit of a lesson to make sure that they understand that they should be taking everything they do seriously. And that includes the next training session the very next day with All Might himself. Izuku is excited. He wants to obviously show off to All Might. He obviously wants to show what he's capable of, and he wants to do it in his own way. Now, he starts on the hero side with Ochako as his partner, and then he's against Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Now, this is where things are perfect for Izuku. Izuku in this scenario is amazing at stuff like this. Izuku would be able to siege and touch the bomb in a matter of seconds. If he wants to get the bomb ASAP, he can. If he wants to lure people in different directions and distract people, he can. And he's able to basically fly up and immediately touch the bomb after the 5-minute planning timer is over, and everybody is shocked. I mean, they knew he could fly, but he made it look so easy, as if they didn't really stand a chance against him. They knew that the stuff that he could do, and immediately he's able to come from a different direction, fly through a wall, and touch the bomb. And it was over in a matter of a second, or a matter of a split second, and everybody is just standing there like, whoa, that felt unfair. And it's kind of proof that, yes, he didn't show some crazy, like, number one, so much better than everyone else type of potential in the quirk assessment, but there's something for everyone, right? Izuku showed off how good his quirk would be in this scenario. Would it be better in specific scenarios? Of course. Now, are there scenarios that his quirk may not be the best at as well, at least at the moment? Of course. And it kind of proof that basically the UA entrance exam is kind of out of date, that it's massively out of date. Because imagine how good Izuku is at this. Imagine if he couldn't really destroy robots the way he wanted to, right? He could have fell short and not made it into UA, even though his quirk has such massive upside and massive potential. And of course, All Might would regard him as so and say that Izuku has shown what kind of usage of your powers can be, that raw force and raw strength sometimes doesn't mean jack all. And sometimes it doesn't mean a single thing. In which All Might tells them all to stay focused on this and really analyze your environment and the quirks that others have. That it's very important. And that he feels as if Izuku Midoriya can show that very loud and clear. Now everybody else continues on with their their hero training and the heroes versus villains, and Izuku just continues to watch. Everybody goes, your Todorokis, your Momo Yaoyorozus, and so on and so forth, and Izuku awaits the end of the class period. As the class period would end, and as he would head back home or into his little kind of studio dorm, he would then kind of relax, take a load off, but would begin to try his best and connect with these spirits. In his own room, he would enter through the spirit realm, sitting next to and in front of different spirits that he can see. But nothing really is that much surprising. It's all the same. But he knows that these spirits exist, and he knows that soon he'll be able to utilize and also connect with spirits all around Japan. But for now, he awaits the next training session and his next training session at the USJ, and he's prepared for it all. He is massively prepared for it, or at least feels like he is. But what he doesn't know is that the USJ training facility, it's not going to be what he thinks it's going to be, because the League of Villains will invade and a new awakening will be upon us. But for now, that has to wait for part 2 of What If Deku Had a Spirit Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.